Hey, what's happening, guys? What's going on YouTube? You guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels. I figured you guys could join me for my morning coffee and we talk about a news story from the Wall Street Journal titled, "These People Rushed to Buy Homes During COVID. Now They Regret It. A hot real estate market across the U.S. has led to a number of buyers snapping up homes without performing due diligence." And I thought you guys might enjoy this video. One of my most viewed videos, but even more so than most viewed, one of my most commented on videos that has the most engagement is a video I did back in probably 2018, and it was titled something along the lines of 74% of millennial home buyers regret their home purchase. And the thumbnail of that video is this like decrepit old house that looks like it's about to fall over. I'll try to find the video and link to it down below. But it seemed like that kind of really stirred up a lot of conversation, really kind of people really kind of connected with that story and that kind of concept. And so I thought you guys might enjoy this one as well. I don't know if any of you guys have bought houses in the past year, or if any of you guys are, looking to buy your first home, have been home shopping. The real estate market across the country has been insane. In hot markets, it's been even crazier. Last year, prior to all this lockdown stuff kicking off, I had went down to Florida back in mid-January, end of January, to look at some houses, and I've been kind of house shopping ever since. And it was always competitive. There wasn't a ton of stuff on the market, but as we went further and further into the whole beer cough situation, the market got tighter. I think a lot of people didn't want to list their homes because they didn't want strangers coming into their homes. A lot of people were worried about their job security and what was going on in the world, and didn't really want to make any big decisions at that point. But you also had a lot of people wanting to get out of their tiny, cramped apartments. I got a couple buddies who live in River North, Edgewater, some of the, kind of quote unquote trendy neighborhoods in Chicago and high rises. And a lot of them are regretting where they're at. They're in 400 square foot apartments that they're spending $2,200 a month for, in large part because of the location and being near nightlife and restaurants and bars and things like that. And pretty much all of that's been shut down for the last year. Their buildings tend to have a lot of amenities, movie rooms, pools, nice gyms, but all that has been shut down as well. So they're paying a fortune to live in a tiny apartment, and they're not able to take advantage of the city that they're paying to be in the middle of, and they're not able to take advantage of a lot of the amenities that their buildings offer. So we've seen a lot of people like rushing to the suburbs, rushing out of cities, rushing to buy homes. And this article kind of talks about, I don't know that this is like widespread that people regret their decision, but this article kind of talks about a handful of people who really kind of regret their decision. I haven't been listening to Joe Rogan as much since he's moved over to Spotify, but I have seen a couple episodes, and there was an interesting conversation he had on I believe it was the episode where Dave Chappelle did a little cameo, and that guy Daryl, who used to say "I'm rich, bitch" on the Chappelle show, that guy was kind of the main guest on the show, and Joe Rogan made an interesting comment. He said, I think the lockdowns really made people it kind of made the chickens come home to roost, so to speak. It really made people evaluate whether they're happy with the life decisions that they've made. And what he meant by that was, think about the stuff or the crap that you pack into your house. Think about where you live. Think about your house, how big it is. Do you have a backyard? During COVID, if you had a home gym and your gym was locked down, like, oh, I'm really glad I had a home gym. If you had thought about buying some workout equipment or getting a home gym and you didn't do it, you'd probably be kicking yourself for not doing it. The cost of, you couldn't find weights anywhere. The cost of weights on Facebook Marketplace and OfferUp went through the roof. I actually sold some of my surplus weights during the lockdowns just because prices were so insane. But I thought that was interesting. The lockdowns and being stuck in your house really made you either love the decisions that you made to put you there and where you're at, or it really made you hate them. Anyhow, let's get into the article. Again, this one's from the Wall Street Journal. These people rushed to buy homes during COVID. Now they regret it. So we talked about that. And here's another interesting thing too. So what this article is kind of getting at, during the lockdowns, the real estate market's really hot right now. So a lot of houses are, pretty much all houses that are priced appropriately in a decent area and not pieces of garbage in a hot market are going under contract in literally a matter of hours, definitely under 24 hours. Nothing's lasting more than 2 or 3 days at tops, and that's even if it's priced kind of high. It's a really insane real estate market, and a lot of people are getting into multiple offer situations. So people wind up trying to make their offers more attractive by waiving inspections, by doing cash offers where you don't have a financing contingency. And it looks like a lot of these people are regretting putting in these cash offers with I'm having a brain fart. I'm forgetting a word, but with no terms attached to it, with no inspection. So getting into the article, Stella Guan spent months searching for a home to buy, getting outbid again and again and again in a white-hot real estate market of Los Angeles suburbs. Finally, her offer on a beautiful Santa Clarita house was accepted in August. She said, the graphic designer, who's 30, paid roughly $600,000 for the house, but after sleeping there for only a few nights, she had an unfortunate realization. I was like, uh-oh, I hate this house. She recalled, I hate this house so much. Looking back on it, she said, I should have seen all the warning signs, but the pandemic housing fever got the better of me. A house, unlike expensive jewelry or clothing, can be returned if the buyer is unhappy with it. So a cardinal rule of home buying is that you shouldn't rush into a purchase. But in 2020, millions of Americans did just that. And one thing I think this article, I only kind of perused this article, one thing I think this article kind of touches on is, due to remote work and a lot of people not being tied down to a certain city or a certain state, a lot of people are considering moving to different areas. And it's, I'll tell you, looking at houses in Florida, it's really difficult to buy a house in an out-of-state market or in a state that's not easy to travel to. It'd be one thing, I'm in Chicago, it'd be one thing if I bought a house in Wisconsin or Indiana or Michigan where, it would be a pain in the butt, but at least I could hop in the car, drive a couple hours and be there. In Florida, it's like, I gotta book a flight and then travel down there, and as fast as properties are moving, by the time I get down there, the property is most likely under contract. So now I just paid for a flight, wasted my time going down there for absolutely nothing. So it's leading to a lot of people putting offers on houses sight unseen. And one really unique thing about Florida and a lot of the Southeast is, at least in the Chicagoland area, I know somebody in the Northeast was commenting on this too. Pick any certain Chicago suburb, and it's like the entire city's safe, the entire city's nice. You really can't go wrong, right? Like I could, from across the country, buy a house in most Chicago suburbs, western suburbs, northwest suburbs, and know I'm going to be in a nice, safe area with amenities. In the Southeast, man, things seem to like really vary block to block. There's not as much zoning. So you could have a mansion next to, a crack house. You could have a gated community next to a tiny rundown trailer park. So you really kind of need to have feet on the ground and kind of look around. And I think that's probably what a lot of these people are running into. Back to the article, fleeing small apartments, buying vacation homes, or simply looking for a change of scenery amid the crushing boredom of lockdowns, people scrambled to buy houses amid the pandemic, spurring bidding wars and supercharging real estate markets across the country. Now many are discovering the pitfalls of these hasty purchases, ranging from buyer's remorse and financial strain to damage caused by unexpected problems. And I'd love to hear from you guys. For those of you guys who are homeowners who've bought houses, is there anything you regret about your purchase? Did you hate your purchase? Or at the very least, is there like a little thing that you didn't like about your purchase? My first home I ever bought in my early 20s was a townhome. I kind of rushed into buying it, and I had a couple of regrets. One, the area I moved into, the overall area was pretty nice. It was in a good city, a good school district, but the particular block that I moved in on, which was very affordable, had a lot of Section 8 rentals. There was, kind of a lot of crime and stuff like that. And it wasn't necessarily the safest area, so I kind of regretted that. And then another thing, there were power lines over my house, and it's like if you get sick and you start looking on WebMD and you think you're dying. I started researching power lines, and the verdict is still out whether it's safe or unsafe to live near transmission stations or under power lines, but it's definitely something I'd prefer to avoid, and that's something that drove me crazy as well. With the home I'm in right now, overall I kind of like the home. I wish it were a little bit bigger. That's kind of a big regret of mine. And also I bought a house near kind of a trendy area with a lot of like coffee shops and little bars and things like that, which is cool, but I found that I don't really take advantage of that as much as I thought I would. And when you're near a lot of like trendy coffee shops and stuff, parking is kind of a pain in the butt. And also you don't have a lot of grocery stores, you don't have a lot of chain restaurants and things like that. Those are all kind of outside of the area. So the things that I take advantage of the most, whether it be grabbing my coffee at Dunkin' Donuts in the morning, going to grab something for dinner at Jewel or Whole Foods or whatever, I'm having to drive really far for all of those things that I'm doing on a regular basis. And I don't really find myself using the little, mom and pop shops around me all that often. Back to the article. I guess what I was getting at there was, let me know if there's any things that you guys regret about your purchase. Drop a comment down below. Back to the article. This spring especially, people were so panicked, said Priscilla Holloway, a Douglas Elliman agent in the Hamptons, a popular spot for New Yorkers seeking refuge from the pandemic. Buying a home is a huge commitment. You have to be thorough. People were getting all crazy, and they weren't as thorough as they usually are. Many homebuyers were apartment dwellers looking for larger spaces to shelter in. It was a land grab for houses, said Sherry Eisen, CEO of interior design and property marketing firm Interior Marketing Group. People wanted out of apartments. At the same time, inventory dropped as many homeowners hesitated to list their properties in the pandemic. The result is that much of the country saw a price spike and bidding wars, brokers said, leaving buyers with little to choose from. In these conditions, many are tempted to waive inspections or skip other due diligence they would normally perform before buying a home. And you know what? I think this article is kind of a good wake-up call to me. I've been wanting to, I see a house and I'm ready to put an offer on it an hour later without even having my realtor go over there and take pictures and kind of, FaceTime me the area and things like that. And my girlfriend's like, you are getting like house fever. Like you just want to get out of Illinois. You just want to buy something. And that's true. I'm worried about getting priced out. That happened to me in Charleston, South Carolina. I don't want to get priced out of the area of Florida that I'm looking in, and it's frustrating that there's nothing coming on the market, and I find myself lowering my standards and widening my search and lowering my standards and widening my search, and I could easily see myself kind of making an impulsive move and regretting it. So this article is kind of a good wake-up story for me. Ms. Holloway said she helped a family move this summer after discovering the Hamptons house they had just bought had an infestation of wasp nests in the backyard. The family didn't find the wasps until after closing because they had waived the inspection in the midst of a bidding war, Ms. Holloway said, who wasn't representing them at the time. Deciding the property was unsafe for their young children, they immediately put the West Hampton beach home on the market. Ms. Holloway and a colleague helped them find another house to buy. So it must be nice to have that much money that you can buy a Hamptons house, be like, I don't really like this, take a huge loss on it, and buy another house. Somebody in the comments had said, like, why didn't they just hire an exterminator? And as far as a home inspection, finding that, I don't know that home inspectors are going to be checking the trees for wasps. So who knows if that would have gotten caught anyways. Over the past 2 years, the insurance company Chubb has seen large non-weather-related losses increase in frequency and severity, according to Fran O'Brien, division president of Chubb. North America Personal Risk Services, she attributed these losses in part to hasty home purchases. Buyers moving from a small city apartment to a large home in a rural area may not be well versed in how to prevent the pipes from freezing, for example. People are moving to places that they don't know a lot about, Ms. O'Brien said. They're thinking, this looks like a nice place to live for amenities it may have. They don't understand what risks there could be there. So, when I started looking at Florida, sinkholes are a thing. Like, that's one thing to kind of be aware of. They do happen down there. I know when my parents moved to Charleston, South Carolina, things like palmetto bugs, and we don't really have termites much up in the north here. But down there, I think as part of your mortgage, you're required to have like a termite bond or termite insurance. And, if you're moving to a new market, all these things you don't know anything about, you've never heard of. On the flip side, somebody moving from Florida up here, may not know to look to make sure that the pipes are insulated or, kind of other issues like that. People are even more likely to overlook those risks, she said, when they were in a hurry to snap up a home before someone else does. You run into this lack of awareness and lack of time, which is not a good combination. And that's an interesting thing. If you had a home with problems that you wanted to dump, now would be a great time to do so, right? Like with people waiving inspections, if you have a bad subfloor, if you have a cracked foundation, now's the time to sell your home, because now people are buying things, they don't want the inspection, they're just going to take the house, and somebody who's unethical could say, I'm just going to let that be the next guy's problem. A Home Advisor report found that Americans did an average of 1.2 emergency home repairs in 2020, up from 0.4 in 2019. While emergency home spending jumped an average of $1,640 up to $124 from the 2019 average. Nature had an unpleasant surprise in store for Richard and Megan Weiss when they bought their first home in Northern California after moving from Brooklyn. When COVID hit, the couple left their Brooklyn apartment to stay with Ms. Weiss's parents in Sonoma, California. Ms. Weiss was pregnant and they had a toddler at the time. Being cooped up in an apartment was not being able to see people in New York sounded like a miserable existence, said Mr. Weiss, 40, who works in commercial real estate. After a few months, they decided to relocate permanently to the Bay Area where Ms. Weiss grew up and started looking for a home to buy. They found the market to be super duper competitive, Ms. Weiss said. Interesting phrase, right? Super duper competitive. They were outbid on one house and backed out of a contract on another when they found out it had serious foundation issues. Finally, they were able to buy a 4-bedroom house they loved in the East Bay for about $100,000 over the $1.89 million asking price to beat out another bidder. We were a little bit overeager because we'd been burned twice, she said, probably didn't do the due diligence we should have, and looked at everything as thoroughly as we probably should have. They closed on the Hillside house in November. When they returned a few weeks later to move in, we see all these holes in the siding, Miss Weiss said. On closer inspection, they found out that the wood on one side of the house was absolutely devastated, with some 90 holes in it. It turned out that the culprits were acorn woodpeckers living in the large oak trees surrounding the house. Come to find out, it's a systematic problem in the neighborhood, Mr. Weiss said. The seller hadn't said anything about the birds, he said, and coming from Brooklyn, he and his wife didn't know to ask. Since then, they have tried various deterrent devices and consulted with exterminators, but the only permanent solution is to replace the wooden siding with cement at a cost of $150,000. If it weren't for the frothy pandemic market, Mr. Weiss believes they would have discovered the problem before closing. I think we would have been slower and more thoughtful and more methodical, he said. Buying a home becomes emotional because we were emotional from losing the first two to the competitiveness. We just kind of dropped our level of diligence and plowed through. Miss Guan started bidding on a house in the LA suburbs before she even moved there from the New York area in July. She had a good experience with her first home purchase, a condo in New Jersey, and with interest rates low, she was eager to jump into the California market. I thought it's going to be the same as New York. I'll enjoy ownership and make money in a few years. But she arrived in LA to the most insane housing market I've ever seen. She said every house seemed to get 15 or 16 offers, she said, and sell for $100,000 over its asking price. Her offer was eventually accepted on a circa 1975 house with a renovated kitchen in Santa Clarita. At that point, she had been outbid on 7 other houses, she said, so she was determined to get this one, even when the inspection revealed toxic black mold and asbestos. I was really trying to get out of where I lived, she said. I spent 5 to 6 months looking. All of these factors made me say, okay, I have to face it. I can't back out. She sold the house a few months after buying it. After the repairs, agents' fees, and transaction costs, she said, I lost a lot of money. She now lives in a rented studio in LA's Koreatown, where she said she's much happier. It still hurts, she said, but it's good to have my money back and move on to other things and never see the house again. So would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this article, this story. Have any of you guys moved over the last year in the pandemic? Are any of you guys thinking about moving to other areas of the country because you're now able to work remotely, if that's your situation? Would love to hear what you guys think about this. Drop a comment down below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button below and ring the bell, and I'll catch you on the next one.